Good evening, welcome to my channel. My name is David Okon. I've been talking about the cost of living, and I'll be continuing to speak about the cost of living because the cost of living is a global phenomenon and it is a serious subject. It is impoverishing people around the world. It is caused by poverty itself. It is caused because the economic system we have, capitalism, takes money, wealth away from the hands of the few, the many, and gives it into the hands of the few. It's a defaulted system which actually behaves in that manner, and it is government policy to intervene with public sector to provide public service to actually get people out of poverty across the globe. Today we talk about South Africa in terms of the cost of living crisis. I'll be doing a review of some material on the South Africa to show the potential of Africa for wealth, and also potential for wealth, and also the actual achievement within the wealth economy, within growth, and how capitalism operates in South Africa. We have been going around the world. We watched this video alongside the rest of the videos so that you make sense. I will be repeating some points, especially points around development and culture, and I'll be saying something resembling the fact that we have done well on the developmental front, but we have done rather poorly on the cultural front. Culture means valuing humanity first. That is a simple outlook of the concept, and I believe if we change our mind to learn our culture, which we haven't learned very well over the decades of our progress, if we do that, then we will start a true process of peace building and also peace maintenance. Right now, we have wars across the globe. We have always had wars. Our development has been part of war, global conflict, and this is no less. There's so much violence. In South Africa, you will associate South Africa with apartheid, which is some of the most evil incidences, to provide a really horrible survey on the plight of humanity. It's a symptom of the world. South Africa happens to express it in the worst form possible. And discrimination by the minority white of South Africa against the majority of black people, black Africans, which actually saw the worst of humanity, the evidencing the idea of progress, bereft of the cultural economy. Cultural economy, like I said, paying attention to humanity. If you are a little child, if you're a young person, if you are an elderly, it is essential that you behave like a human being. Today, we are drifting more and more away from humanity. We are even valuing the environment more than people. Now we are valuing everything else except humanity. If you don't value yourself, nobody else is going to value you. If you're a child, you value your toys. If you're an adult, you probably value one thing or another, except you are alive. And you expect your life to be peaceful. That will not going to happen. We are going to see wars. There's going to be more violence and lack of peace. We are seeing wars in the Middle East now between Israel and Palestine, and between Hamas. This would have not happened if Israel respected the Arabs, and if the Arabs respected Israel. They do not respect each other because they don't treat each other as if they are humans, because they don't understand how to value humanity. If you value somebody, you do not fight them. As simple as that. That is what I've been saying. The cost of living crisis is evidence of cultural failure, disrespect for people who are poor. The 95% of the population of the world who work for a living actually insisted that these are actually poor people. Incidentally, most poor people do not realize they are poor because of the credit system because sometimes they are well paid, sometimes they get what they want or even what they need. But when crisis strike and the government is absent, then a lot of people begin to realize the vanity of their possessions, which can be actually lost in an instant. And this is not often the case with multimillionaires and multi-billionaires. I've been repeating this point. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed. And thank you everybody who have been subscribing to support this channel. And also, if you watch this video, share with family and friends. And we'll be talking about South Africa to link it with the cost of living crisis, like I said. So we are going to do a review of South Africa, of a material consistent with what Africa look like, and also, providing an understanding that Africa is a normal country, and the cost of living in Africa, such as elsewhere, should not have happened if there was justice, if there was economic and social justice, and this economic injustice and social injustice happened because of our poor understanding of human culture. If we did, we would have prioritized humanity, which we would have valued over power, wealth, and all the other systems. And let us look at South Africa. South Africa, in terms of location in the globe, is 30 degrees south and also 25 degrees east. That's how to read the coordinates to locate where a country or an area lies within the global positioning. So there are different names to name South Africa. 10 actually. There's a flag like any other country. So South Africa is a normal country. It has coat of arms. You have mottos, unity in diversity. It has national anthem, and the capital of South Africa is actually in Pretoria, the executive area, which means the government seat, where the government is called executive. And Cape Town is actually legislative capital. So legislative means parliament. For those who are familiar with where laws and policies are made. So Bloemfontein is actually judiciary, the courts, the high courts. So in that sense, South Africa is fairly organized in terms of social infrastructure. The official language, 12 languages actually, official languages in South Africa: Afrikaans, English, and the Bele, Sepedi, Sesotho, Setswana, South African Sign Language, Swahili, Shivenda, Xhosa, Zitsonga, and Zulu. So if you would be interested, visit South Africa. If you got so many different ethnic groups in South Africa, 81.4% are black people, 8.2% are colored, 7.23% are white people, 2.7% are Asians. The religion of South Africa are predominantly Christianity, 78% are Christianity, 58.3% are Protestantism, or maybe they are low their allegiance to the Church of England in the first place. 19% are other Christian communities, and 10.9% have no religion. That is a lot of percentage. And 4.4% traditional faith, like African-based traditional faith. After colonialism, Africa lost their culture, including their religion. So now we only have a minority of 4.4% in South Africa. It's consistent with the situation in Africa as a continent. 1.6% is Islam, 1.0% Hinduism, and 2.7% are other faiths, and 1.4% are actually undetermined. I don't know what undetermined means. If you are a citizen of South Africa, you are referred to as a South African. The government of South Africa is actually a unitary parliamentary republic with an executive presidency. That means that there is a unitary, means one system of parliament, and also a republic. With the public means is there is no royal family or monarchy in its classical meaning. There is no monarchy actually. The independent is like like a civil system with an executive. Executive means government. Executive presidency, which means the president is actually head of state and also head of government. The president of South Africa is Cyril Ramaphosa, that is his name, and the deputy president, which is actually vice, is known as Paul Mashatile. So the chairman of the National Council is Amos Masondo, is bicameral in parliamentary terms. So the upper house is actually the National Council. Its chairman is actually Amos, chairperson, so to speak, is Amos Masondo. The Speaker of the National Assembly, which is the lower camera part of Parliament, is actually Nosiviwe Mapisa Nkakula, something like that. If you comment below, if you know anything about South Africa. The Chief Justice, which is the judicial officer, is Raymond Zondo. The legislature is composed, like I said, the parliament is composed of the upper house, National Council, and the lower house, which is actually the National Assembly. South Africa obtained its independence from the United Kingdom. The union arrangement in infrastructure was set on the 31st May 1910, and the Statute of Westminster was actually set on the 11th of December 1931. It became a republic on the 31st May 1961, and democratization came into being on the 27th of April 1994. That was when apartheid ended. The total area of South Africa is 1,221,037 square kilometer and 471,445 square kilometer. In terms of water coverage, in percentage, is 0.380. The population of South Africa, according to the 2022 census, is 62,027,503. Number 23rd in the world. The population density is 50.8% per square kilometer, in an equivalent of 131.6 person per square mile. The GDP PPP is estimated in 2023 is a total of 997.444 billion, 33rd in the world. So South Africa is the 33rd country, richest country in the world. Per capita income is 16,211. 97th in the world. GDP nominal 2023 estimate is in total 380.906 billion, 39th in the world. Per capita income is 6,190, 96 in the world. The Gini 2014 estimate is 63.0, very high. The HDI 2021 estimation 0.713, high 109. Currency of South Africa is South African Rand. ZAR time zone is UTC +2 SAST. The date format is short formats, years, months, and day. And they drive, when they are driving on the road, is they're on the left. And the cooling code is +27. ISO 3166 code ZA. Internet TLD.ZA. So these are essentials of South Africa. South Africa officially is the Republic of South Africa. is the southernmost country in Africa. It is bounded to the south by 2,798 kilometers, 1,739 miles of coastline that stretches along the South Atlantic and Indian Ocean, to the north by the neighboring countries of Namibia, Botswana, and Zimbabwe, and to the east and northeast by Mozambique and Eswatini. This is how South Africa look like by description. It also completely enclaves the country of Lesotho. It is the southernmost country on the mainland of the old world and the second most populous country located entirely south of the equator after Tanzania. South Africa is a biodiversity hotspot with unique biomes, plant and animal life. With over 62 million people, the country is the world's 23rd most populous nation and covers an area of 1,221,7 square kilometers and 471,445 square miles. Pretoria is the administrative capital, while Cape Town is the seat of parliament, the legislative capital, like we said up there. Bloemfontein has traditionally been regarded as the judicial capital. The largest city, the site of highest court of the highest court is Johannesburg. About 80% of the population are Black South Africans. The remaining population consists of Africa's largest communities of European, white South Africans, Asian, Indian South Africans, and Chinese South Africans, and multicultural colored South Africans ancestries. South Africa is a multi-ethnical society encompassing a wide variety of cultures and languages and religions. South Africa is a multi-ethnical society encompassing a wide variety of cultures, languages, and religions. Its pluralistic makeup is reflected in the Constitution's recognition of 12 official languages, the fourth highest number in the world. In terms of multiculturalism, South Africa is the fourth highest composition and the fourth highest composition in the world, according to the 2021 census. The two most spoken first languages are Zulu, 22.7%, and Xhosa, 16.0%. The next two are of European origin: Afrikaans, 13.5%, developed from Dutch, and serves as the first language of most colored and white South Africans. English, 9.6%, reflects the legacy of British colonialism and is commonly used in public and commercial life. The country has never had a coup d'etat, and regular elections have been held for almost a century. However, the vast majority of Black South Africans were not enfranchised until 1994, meaning election in the normal sense of the word, people being registered to vote freely, was non-existent in South Africa until the 1994 arrangements. During the 20th century, the black majority sought to claim more rights from the dominant white minorities, which played a large role in the country's recent history and politics. Talking about apartheid and the suppression of the white majority, the National Party imposed apartheid in 1948, institutionalizing previous racial segregation. So racism in South Africa became institutionalized in a feat known as apartheid, something everybody in normal age would be familiar with. And if you watch this video, watch it with the rest of the videos, because they are actually demonstrated consistently why our cultural failure is causing incidences like apartheid. Apartheid, like the cost of living crisis, are evidence of humanitarian failure produced mainly by cultural failure. Cultural failure being incapacitated to value humanity, including ourselves as individuals. We value probably money more than even our own lives, which is actually totally ridiculous. And this can change by changing the way we think and paying attention to culture, paying attention to humanity, valuing it more even than wealth or power or any other thing, such as is occurring now in the developmental front. Technology, science, we seem to value everything else except humanity. That produced apartheid. The white minority ruling South Africa, who are actually barbarians by any standards, were actually valuing power and slavery and oppression more than the human life. This may sound simple or even simplistic, and it is simple, but it is profoundly important. It is actually a deciding factor if we are to make it as a species maintaining peace, because if we cannot achieve peace now, we are going to go extinct. To see the war in the Middle East, the war in Niger, in Africa, in every part of the world, in history, in the contemporary time, you see the terrorism, you see the war in Russia, between Russia and Ukraine, and it is just the beginning, including the two world wars, just the beginning. And at this rate, humanity will go extinct. Probably the poor will die first, and the rich will die second. We are all in this together. We need to open our eyes. I say this because a lot of people are talking about peace. Without peace, we will go extinct, and we need to pay attention to our culture, valuing humanity as a priority. And to demonstrate that in policy, we need to actually put pressure on our government to increase, to strengthen the public sector, to provide public service, to remove the 90% or more of the global population away from poverty. This is actually also applicable in Africa and South Africa. So let us carry on with reviewing this material, also linking it with the cost of living crisis, and watching this video, watch the rest of the video for it to make sense for you. Thank you if you have been watching this video this far. Subscribe to my channel and let it grow, and click the notification bell for more, and leave a comment below so that we produce a dialogue, and click like. So after a long period, after a long and sometimes violent struggle by the African National Congress and other anti-apartheid activists, both inside and outside the country, the repeal of discriminatory laws began in the mid-1980s. Since 1994, all ethnic and linguistic groups have held political representation in the country's liberal democracy, which comprise a parliamentary republic and the 9 provinces. South Africa is often referred to as the Rainbow Nation to describe the country's multicultural diversity, especially in the wake of apartheid. South Africa is a middle power in international affairs. It maintains significant regional influence and is a member of both the Commonwealth of Nations and the G20s. It is a developing country ranking 109 on the Human Development Index and 7th highest on the continent. South Africa is the only African nation to legislate same-sex marriage. It has been classified by the World Bank as a newly industrialized country and as the 3rd largest economy and the most industrialized technologically advanced economy in Africa overall, as well as the 39th largest economy in the world. South Africa has the most UNESCO World Heritage Sites in Africa. Since the hand of apartheid government, accountability and equality of life have substantially improved. However, crime, poverty, and inequality remain widespread, with about 40% of the total population being unemployed as of 2021, while some 60% of the population lives under the poverty line and a quarter under $2.515 a day. Let us look at some languages used, etymological representation, looking at the official names of South Africa. The name South Africa is derived from the country's geographical location at the southern tip of Africa. Upon formation, the country was named the Union of South Africa in English and Unie van Zuid-Afrika in Dutch, reflecting its origin from the unification of 4 formerly separate British colonies. Since 1961, the long formal name in English has been the Republic of South Africa and Republic van Zuid-Afrika in Afrikaans. Since 1994, the country has been an official name and it had an official name in each of its 12 official languages. Mzansi derived from the Xhosa noun Umzansi, meaning south, is a colloquial name for South Africa, while some Pan-Africanist political parties prefer the term Azania. Let's look at the history of South Africa, including the prehistoric archaeological nature of the country, front of the Maropeng and the cradle of humankind. South Africa contains some of the oldest archaeological and human fossil sites in the world. Archaeologists have recovered extensive fossil remains from a series of caves in Gauteng province. The area, UNESCO World Heritage Site, has been branded the cradle of humankind. Now, if you watch the rest of my video, you will find that I have stated that East Africa, indeed Africa, has been referred to as the cradle of humanity, meaning the first modern human was discovered in Africa, meaning every other inhabitant of the world has been coming as actually originating in Africa, making Africa actually the motherland of every humanity in all the continents of the world. The sites include Stakfontein, one of the richest sites of hominin fossil in the world, as well as the Swartkrans Gondolin Cave, Kromdraai, the Cooper's Cave, and Malapa. Raymond Dart identified the first hominin fossil discovered in Africa, the Taung child found near Taung in 1924. Other hominin remains have come from the site of the Makapansgat in Limpopo province, Cornelia and Flourishbad in Free State province, Border Cave in KwaZulu-Natal province, Classes River Cave in Eastern Cape province, and Pinnacle Point, Elands Fontaine, and Die Kelder's Cave in Western Cape provinces. These finds suggest that various hominid species existed in South Africa from about 3 million years ago, starting with Australopithecus africanus, followed by Australopithecus Zediba, Homo augusta, Homo erectus, rhodesiensis, helmai, and naledi, and modern humans, Homo sapiens. Modern humans have inhabited South Africa for at least 170,000 years. Various researchers have located pebble tools within the Vaal River Valley. This is the history of human origins of South Africa. So we're looking at the Bantu expansion. The Bantu people, like I said in the other videos, are the main group, I would presume, across Africa, but mainly East and South Africa. And Mapungubwe Hill, the site of the former capital of the kingdom of Mapungubwe. Settlements of Bantu-speaking peoples who are using agriculturists and herdsmen were present south of the Limpopo River, now northern border with Botswana and Zimbabwe, by the 4th and the 5th century. They displaced, conquered, and absorbed the origin Khoisan, Khoikhoi, and the San peoples. The Bantu slowly moved south. The earliest ironwork in the modern day KwaZulu-Natal province are believed to date from around 1050. The southernmost group was the Xhosa people, whose language incorporates certain linguistic traits from the earlier Khoisan people. The Xhosa reached the Great Fish River in today's Eastern Cape province. As they migrated, this larger Iron Age population displaced or assimilated earlier peoples. In Mpumalanga province, several stone circles have been found, along with a stone arrangement that has been named Adam's Calendar, and the ruins are thought to be created by the Bakone of northern Sohoto people. We're going to look at the Portuguese exploration discoveries and the Portuguese explorer Bartolomeu Dias planting the cross at Cape Point after being the first to successfully round the Cape of Good Hope. In 1487, Portuguese explorer Bartolomeu Dias led the first European voyage to land in South Africa. On the 4th December, he landed at Walvis Bay, now known as the Walvis Bay in present-day Namibia. This was south of the furthest point reached in 1485 by his predecessor, the Portuguese navigator Diogo Cao, Cape Cross, north of the bay. Dias continued down the western coast of southern Africa. After 8th January 1488, prevented by storms from proceeding along the coast, he sailed out of sight of land and passed the southernmost point of Africa without seeing it. He reached as far up the eastern coast of Africa as what he called Rio do Infante, probably the present-day Groot River, in May 1488. On his return, he saw the cape, which he named Cabo das Tormentas, Cape of Storms. King John II renamed the point Cabo de Boa Esperanza, or Cape of Good Hope, as related to the riches of the East Indies. Dias' feat of navigation was immortalized in Louis the Camorra's 1572 epic poem as Lusíadas. look at Dutch colonization, Dutch Cape Colony and Boer republics. Charles Davidson Bell's 19th century painting of Jan van Riebeeck, who founded the first European settlement in South Africa, arrived in Table Bay in 1652. This is now the beginning of colonizing of South Africa as part of the process of Europeans colonizing Africa. By the early 17th century, Portugal's maritime power was starting to decline, and English and Dutch merchants competed to oust Portugal from its lucrative monopoly of the spice trade. So this was actually the beginning, the continuation of capitalism during colonialism was driven mainly by trade and the desire to create wealth and acquire power. And this trend has actually carried on in modern times. And I am inviting us, in as much as we are doing development, let us also do culture to respect humanity with our wealth, instead of weaponizing our wealth and our progress to destroy humanity. This is the discussion point, and this is the whole point about talking about the cost of living crisis. Sometimes when I talk about the cost of living crisis, people may not understand, or they may understand why I'm doing so. I'm doing so to actually illustrate the economy and the power and the politics and also the cultural requirement of modern society to bring peace. And this is the whole point, because the cost of living is a type of peace. And if you see the idea of colonialism and imperialism, slavery, violence, war, imperialism is in what I'm actually going to reviewing here. Is the evidence of aggression, of violence. You're going into a territory not belonging to you, take it by force, and kill and destroy and steal their property of the owners. And this is actually cultural failure, and it's been going on for decades and decades and getting worse. If we still today have the cost of living crisis, then we are actually found out to be robbers, to be murderers as humanity. Not just one person, not just one country, not just South Africa, but the entire globe. We all need to take responsibility. We all need to take responsibility for the mess we are in, and the answer to this mess is not more wars and more wealth. We need more wealth, but definitely we don't need more war. We need more culture, more education. The law can now help us to tidy up, to prevent the worst of the worst, but the law is an oppressive weapon, instrument, and so it actually helps tidy up society, which is actually out of control. What we need to bring real peace is education on the question of culture, valuing humanity first, and developing other things next. It may be sounding simple, and it is a simple idea, may not be simplistic, but it is not simplistic, because we need to dig deeper to discover ourselves as individuals and also as society, to turn around and develop the other end of progress, the cultural economy, in addition to our developmental economy, along which front we have done very well. We have done very well on development. Capitalism is a good engine for development, for creating wealth. But wealth without culture is a weapon, lethal weapon, which we see now. We're using our wealth to destroy our worlds, to destroy our life. So we need wealth, yes, but we need culture more than wealth, so that we can use wealth for peaceful purposes. This is the whole point about this program, and I'll be using different mechanisms to illustrate the same point over again. Listen to this, subscribe to this channel, support it, watch the video, share the video with family and friends, and leave a comment below. Let me know what you're thinking. So we'll talk about South Africa today, and watch this video alongside the rest of the other videos, because they are very similar but different in terms of looking at different contexts of the economy, economic policy, politics, power, and also cultural, and linking all this with the current cost of living as a crisis. I'm using the cost of living as a crisis to actually discuss a wider topic, including politics, including society, culture, the environment, technology, engineering, and all these other facets are actually factors of development in our progress journeys, but also inviting us to look at the other side, the humanitarian side, which is referred to as cultural economy, valuing humanity, to actually open that gate to peaceful dispensation, peaceful relations, to use our development for our prosperity other than for our destruction and potential extinction. I've said this over and over and over. We're saying it again and again. Look at South Africa and do a review of this material and link it to all the other issues. Thank you for being part of this process, and do everything you can to support the channel. The representative of British East India, a company sporadically called the Cape in search of provisions as early as 1601, but later came to favor Ascension Island and St. Helena as alternative ports of refuge. Dutch interest was aroused after 1647, when 2 employees of the Dutch East India Company were shipwrecked at the Cape for several months. The sailors were able to survive by obtaining fresh water and meat from the natives. They also sowed vegetables in the fertile soil. Upon their return to Holland, they reported favorably on the Cape's potential as a warehouse and garden for provisions to stop passing ships for long voyages. In 1652, a century and a half after the discovery of the Cape sea route, Jan van Riebeeck established a victualling station at the Cape of Good Hope at what would become the Cape Town on behalf of the Dutch East India Company. In time, the Cape became home to a large population of Vrygidian, also known as Ridgeburgers, or free citizens, former company employees who stayed in Dutch territories were seized after serving their contracts. So they moved in and actually decided to stay, not to return back. They liked the place. Dutch traders also brought thousands of enslaved people to the fledgling colony from Indonesia, Madagascar, and parts of Eastern Africa. Slavery is actually a form of barbarism, a total incompetence in terms of cultural awareness. That is precisely what I'm trying to say. Some of the earliest mixed race communities in the country were formed between rich burghers, enslaved people, and indigenous peoples. This led to the development of a new ethnic group, the Cape Coloureds, most of whom adopted the Dutch language and the Christian faith. The eastward expansion of Dutch colonists ushered in a series of wars with the southwesterly migrating Xhosa tribe, known as the Xhosa Wars, as both sides competed for the pasture land near the Great Fish River, which the colonialists desired for grazing cattle. Rich burghers who became independent farmers on the frontier were known as Boers, with some adopting semi-nomadic lifestyles being denoted as trek Boers. The Boers formed loose militias, which they termed commandos, and forged alliances with the Khoisan peoples and repelled the Joshua raids. Both sides launched bloody but inconclusive offensives, and sporadic violence, often accompanied by livestock theft, remained common for several decades. British colonization and the Great Trek, the invasion of the Cape Colony, Great Trek, British Bechuanaland, and colony of Natal. Great Britain occupied Cape Town between 1795 and 1803 to prevent it from falling under the control of the French First Republic, which had invaded the Low Countries. After briefly returning to Dutch rule under the Batavian Republic in 1803, the Cape was occupied again by the British in 1806. Following the end of the Napoleonic Wars, it was formally ceded to Great Britain and became an integral part of the British Empire. British immigration to South Africa began around 1818, subsequently culminating in the arrival of the 1820 settlers. The new colonialists were introduced to settle for a variety of reasons, namely to increase the size of the European workforce, to bolster frontier regions against the Xhosa incursion. We look at certain depiction of a Zulu attack on a Boer camp in February 1848. In the first 2 decades of the 19th century, the Zulu people grew in power and expanded their territory under their leader, Shaka. Shaka's warfare indirectly led to the Mafakeni crushing, in other words, in which 1 or 2 million people were killed, and the inland plateau was devastated and depopulated in the early 1820s. We talk about extreme form of violence by the Europeans in Africa, in South Africa, as not seen before in many occasions, and the type of violence which is a true depiction of people bereft of any sense of morality, of any sense of humanity. True barbarians are executing the kind of violence such as not seen before in the regions surrounding the areas in question. So as we look through this material to review it, to link it with different other issues, as we have been doing, if you're watching this video, watch the rest as well, because they are all connected. An offshoot of the Zulu, the Matabele people created a larger empire that included large parts of the Highveld under their king Mzikazi. During the early 19th century, many Dutch settlers departed from the Cape Colony, where they had been subjected to British control in a series of migrant groups who came to be known as the Woodpeckers, meaning pathfinders or pioneers. They migrated to the future Natal, Free State, and Transvaal regions. The Boers founded the Boer republics, the South African Republic, the Natal Republic, and the Orange Free State. The discovery of diamonds in 1867 and gold in 1884 in the interior started the mineral revolution and increased economic growth and immigration. This intensified British subjugation of the indigenous people. So, talk about theft, talk about invasion, violence, violation of human rights. Talk about killing people and killing so many people. And this is actually evidence which is consistent with what is now happening in the modern world. The violence may be different in form, and the weapons we use may be including viruses, biological warfare, maybe long-range jet fighters, drones. But you see, the underlying problems of insanity, underlying quality or barbarism still remains the same. Such as happened during colonialism, which is happening across the globe, intensifying mostly in Africa. One could argue that the intention of white people invading Africa was such as to focus on one thing: wealth, power, and domination, regardless how they got it. The total disregard for Africa, they treated the people of Africa like animals. Now, in the treating of a human being like animals, even if they are Africans, is actually testimony of barbarism which remains. And this, if not dealt with, then the same white people which actually nearly drove Africans into extinction can do the same in their countries, and it is happening now in white countries. The level of violence are insidious, which you don't see it coming. It is so hidden, subtle, but it's more dangerous than what happened in history. We may be deceived today to believe that the world is a better place, and it is in terms of development, but in terms of culture and human safety, we have never faced more risk than this in the entire history of humanity. We need to revisit our cultural economy and learn over and again the value of humanity. We are going back to looking at some of these materials and the struggle to control these important economic resources was a factor in relations between Europeans and the indigenous population, and also between the Boers and the British. People were fighting, basically there was always war. Suspicion, mistrust, humans killing each other. And the basic motive was to get wealth and power and domination and rule. It's an obsession which is futile, which has actually destroyed the world. It's something today, destroyed the world. We have really achieved so much in development, and we're using the product of our development as weapons of mass destruction, including viruses, including nuclear weapons, and all the rest of it. This is the case given we less and less are being less and less educated culturally, losing sight of the true value of life, humanity. Looking at a map of South Africa in 1876, on the 16th of May 1876, President Thomas Francois burghers of the South African Republic declared war against the Pedi people. King Singh King Sekuhune managed to defeat the army on the 1st of August 1876. African kings and its people didn't give up easily. They fought for their land. But they were weak because they were less violent and they had less wealth, they had less power, they less weapons. So they were defeated in the end. On the 16th of February 1877, the two parties signed a peace treaty at Botshabelo. These treaties were signed over and again, but because people were depraved, they were so dishonest and so backward as today. There was no trust. Most of these treaties were actually untrue. They were product of dishonesty, and they never lasted. The Boers initially to subdue the Pedi led to the departure of burghers in favor of Paul Kruger and British annexation of the South African Republic. In 1878 and 1879, 3 British attacks were successfully repelled until Garnet Wolseley defeated Sekhukhune in November 1879 with an army of 2,000 British soldiers, Boers, and 10,000 Swazis. Britain was actually a global power at that time. The Anglo-Zulu War was fought in 1879 between the British and the Zulu Kingdom. Following Lord Carnarvon's successful introduction of federation in Canada, it was thought that similar political effort coupled with military campaigns might succeed with the African kingdoms, tribal areas and Boer republics in South Africa. All sorts of evil schemes were applied to win allies and enemies, and that these enterprises, politics and lies and deceits and deceptions, and craftiness remains today globally, including in South Africa and the rest of the world. So we need our culture urgently to do the necessary, the needed hygiene in our society and in our worlds, to save humanity from extinction. So that's why I'm talking about the cost of living, because to me, the cost of living is a symptom of a far more dangerous aspect of our lives and our society. And the sooner we start addressing what is the global, a pending global catastrophe of humanity, fighting itself to the total obliteration, total destruction. This is what is to be expected, because the wars are getting worse, maybe a bit more subtle. They look more insidious, they look more innocent, but they are more dangerous than what we saw grow in the past. But we need our culture, we need to educate ourselves, to educate our leaders, to get out of stupidity and become wise. This is all of us, we are all responsible for this. Whether you're poor or rich, no pretending, but if you are in power, you bear more responsibility for humanity and for also society development also. You see, because you are given more responsibility, you are in government, in politics, and also you own a lot of wealth. You run the economy because you are multimillionaires, you are extremely rich people who are invested to run the global economy. So you bear more responsibility in this regard. following, so in 1874, every battle of Frere was sent to South Africa as the British High Commissioner to bring the site plans into being. Among the obstacles were the presence of the independent state of the Boers and the Zululand army. The Zulu nation defeated the British at the Battle of Isandlwana. Eventually, Zululand lost the war, resulting in the termination of the Zulu nation's independence. The Boer Wars in South Africa, the first Boer War and the second Boer War, the battle of places like areas, battle sites such as Majuba Hill was in the last decisive battle during the first Boer War, and so the British defeated by the Boers, and in 2 hours after 2 hours of fighting. That is a very dangerous thing for humanity to engage in, but they do, and they did, and they are still doing now as we speak. In the Middle East, we are barbarians. Without our culture, we are finished. Boer women and children in a British concentration camp during the Second Boer War. So many people suffered, so many people died. We are so brainless as humanity. We are so shameful that we can barely even look at our history to even talk about it, because it is so shameful. But what we are doing now is even more shameful. In a world full of wealth, we still talk about the cost of living crisis. We are no shame at all. Even the laws of the world cannot really bring out any good things out of us, except educating one another, in beginning those in power, educate themselves about the cultural economy, respecting people, valuing people, and putting humanity first as a priority. The British returned with greater numbers, more experience, and new strategy in the Second Boer War, 1899, and between 1899 and 1902. And although they suffered heavy casualties through attrition, they were ultimately successful. The cost of war, the cost of living, and the cost of COVID-19 as crisis have actually been a feature of capitalism and its desire for expansion. Our development, we have achieved our development with the utmost of sacrifices, which was necessary. Wars and violence now is getting even worse, because we still have the cost of living crisis, which is totally unnecessary. Because we want to fight, we have a lot of hatred for our lives, our own lives, and the lives of people around us, because we value power, wealth, and other things more than human life. We change with the education on the cultural economic front. I've been saying this, and I'll be saying it over and again. Over 27,000 Boer women and children died in the British concentration camp. Talk about people, not statistics. South Africa's urban population grew rapidly from the end of the 19th century onward. After the devastation of the wars, Dutch descendants Boer farmers fled into cities from the devastated Transvaal and Orange Free State territories to become the class of the white urban poor. If you're defeated, you become slaves. The winners take hold and become masters, and more brutal, and that is going on today. Independence of Union of South Africa, military history of South Africa during the war, World War I, and military history of South Africa during World War II. Anti-British policies among white South Africans focused on independence. During the Dutch and British colonial years, racial segregation was mostly informal, though some legislation was enacted to control the settlement and movement of indigenous people, including the Native Location Act of 1879 and the system of past laws. 8 years after the end of the Second Boer War and after the 4 years of negotiation, the South Africa Act 1909 granted nominal independence while creating the Union of South Africa on the 31st of May 1910. The Union was a dominion that included the former territories of the Cape, Transvaal and Natal colonies as well as the Orange Free State Republic. The Native Lands Act of 1913 severely restricted the ownership of land by blacks. At that stage, they controlled only 7% of the country. You're talking about over 80% of the population only controlling 7% of the wealth. This is happening now under capitalism. Black people were incidental enemies of the state of capitalism, but capitalism became the worst of evil as an enterprise before, without actually learning of cultural economy and its applicability, the valuing of humanity over wealth and power, etc., etc. So, the amount of land reserved for indigenous peoples was later marginally increased. In 1931, the Union became fully sovereign from the United Kingdom with the passage of the Statute of Westminster, which abolished the last powers of the Parliament of the United Kingdom to legislate in the country, to legislate on the country. Only 3 other African countries, Liberia, Ethiopia, and Egypt, had been independent prior to that point. In 1934, the South African Party and the National Party merged to form the United Party, seeking reconciliation between Afrikaners and English-speaking whites. In 1939, the party split over the entry of the Union into World War II as an ally of the United Kingdom, a move which the National Party followers strongly opposed. So let us look at apartheid here. The disinvestment from South Africa. So apartheid signed in English and Afrikaans in 1948. The National Party was elected to power. It strengthened the racial segregation began under Dutch and British colonial rule. Taking Canada's Indian Act as a framework, the nationalist government classified all peoples into 3 races: whites, blacks, Indians, and colored people are people of mixed race, and developed rights and limitations for each. The white minority, less than 20%, controlled the vastly larger black majority. The legally institutionalized segregation became known as apartheid. While whites enjoyed the highest standard of living in all of Africa, comparable to first world Western nations, the black majority remained disadvantaged by almost every standard, including income, education, housing, and life expectancy. You see, today, under the current capitalism, I've been talking about the cost of living crisis. The cost of living crisis is caused by capitalism, which operated in apartheid South Africa. The driver of apartheid in South Africa was actually the system of capitalism, which concentrated wealth in the hands of the ruling class and take everything away from slaves. It's an evil system, bereft of any cultural, economic enlightenment. So to address this calamity of society, we need to revisit our culture and learn them, especially if you're in power, if you're a capitalist, especially, and use the public sector and public service to get people out of the majority of the population out of poverty, as is happening now under capitalism, which is an evil system, because it is actually conducted under the evil individuals who do not understand cultural economy. Cultural economy is value of humanity as a priority. I've been saying this and I'll be saying this over and again. Leave a comment below and let me know what you think. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't subscribed. And leave a comment below, let me know what you're thinking. Talk about South Africa, we are reviewing literature material and to illustrate the incident of the cost of living crisis and also identifying the fundamental cause of the cost of living. So I say the Freedom Charter adopted in 1955 by the Congress Alliance demanded a non-racial society and an end to discrimination. On the 31st May 1961, the country became a republic following a referendum only open to white voters, which narrowly passed. The British-dominated Natal province largely voted against the proposal. Elizabeth II lost the title Queen of South Africa, and the last Governor General, Charles Robert Swart, became state president. As a concession to the Westminster system, the appointment of the president remained an appointment by Parliament and was virtually powerless until P.W. Botha's Constitution Act of 1983, which eliminated the office of Prime Minister and instated a unique, strong presidency responsible to Parliament. You could argue that apartheid South Africa was actually an extension of Britain. And if Britain can orchestrate such level of evil in South Africa and Africa, it can also do it in Britain and across the globe. Since Britain is a leading power in the global economic relationship. Doing anything, including globalization, without understanding the value of humanity under the cultural economic requirements is going to be counterproductive, especially the stronger we become, the more developed we are. Everything we produce is going to be weaponized to actually produce conditions providing ultimate extinction of humanity. Despite opposition to apartheid both within and outside the country, the government legislated for a continuation of apartheid. Because you see, the few who orchestrated apartheid gained in terms of power, wealth, and prominence. That's the characteristical elements found in other capitalism everywhere, including today. There's apartheid today. Across the globe, not just in one country, is still continuing in South Africa by black people providing something similar to other apartheid against fellow black. Those in power have turned into slaves. White, black Africans who are in power now in South Africa have turned themselves into masters, oppressing black Africans, including, if possible, white South Africans, who would, I mean, the moment you are out of power, whether black or white, the same, you're going to suffer as a slave under capitalism, unless we stop and begin to develop a cultural economic component where if we learn, we will value humanity as a priority. I've been repeating this and repeating it until we learn it, because I believe that is the only hope for humanity. Otherwise, we are in serious trouble. If we still see now, in a world full of wealth, the cost of living crisis happening. And thank you if you have been watching this far. We are about to finish this video looking at South Africa, looking at the incident of apartheid. Security forces cracked down on internal dissent and violence became widespread, with anti-apartheid organizations such as the African National Congress, ANC, and the Azanian People's Organization and the Pan-Africanist Congress carrying out guerrilla warfare and urban sabotage. Made matters worse, the three rival resistance movements also engaged in occasional interfactional clashes as they jockeyed for domestic influence. More of the same, because if you are actually resisting oppression and you are not really fully educated culturally, then you end up in a situation where you make matters worse. You begin to behave even worse than your oppression. And whether you are a slave or a master, every humanity is subject to learning cultural economy, which is actually valuing humanity. If you value somebody, you protect it, you respect it, you treasure it, which is not now happening. We value power, wealth, and glory more than humanity, and this is imbalance of valuation is the cause of the cost of living crisis, which is a symptom of society breaking apart on the brink. Thank you for watching this far. We are looking at South Africa to do a review of this material and illustrate key points, including the cost of living crisis and how it is caused, the fundamental cause of the cost of living crisis in South Africa, but also across the globe. The three apartheid became increasingly controversial, and several countries began to boycott business with South African government because of its racial policies. The world was embarrassed of South Africa. These measures were later extended to international sanctions and the investment of holding by foreign investors. Let us learn from South Africa's experience of apartheid. This is what is now happening. Capitalism is a form of apartheid. Global is now being rolled out globally. They're making it worse than the version of South Africa. The globalized modern apartheid we see now in the world is insidious. We don't see it readily. It's hidden. It's closed from the outside like a sheep, but inside is a raving wolf. It's a ravenous wolf. It's a very dangerous system, which is being run by very dangerous people who do not deserve to be in power. No one in the world deserves so much power as we see now happening with the super rich, with those in government. This is the case because people in power are actually culturally uneducated. They are totally illiterate. They are uncivil because they are so uneducated, so poorly educated. We need to revisit our culture, valuing humanity first. This mantra will go throughout this program. And thank you for watching this video. And subscribe to this channel. Support this channel. Leave a comment below. And if you're from South Africa or from Africa, from any part of the world, let me know your thoughts. Thank you for being part of this process. See you in the next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.